Alright. It's about that time to get started. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Jay. Hello.
Whoa, glad to be here.
Yes, Jay from Binging Barbie podcast, not from other stuff. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, here,
Excited to see how this goes.
here we are at the end of the year. New Year's coming in a day or two. So as the title suggests, we'll be reviewing my diary from 2024, where I have watched a total of 500 films, give or take. Um, yeah, that's a lot of films. Yeah, so here's the thing. Last year, I watched 222 films. At the end of that year, I felt that was a lot of films. I don't think I ever want to watch that many again. And so, yeah, this year I just started watching films, and then I got to a point where I surpassed that and was like, oh crap, I've watched too many films. I guess I'll keep going. I'll limit to myself to 365, like one a day. I got to that point, I was like, ah, crap. Maybe I'll just go to 400. I got to that point, and also by that point, I had received 500 subscribers. And then I was like, you know what? What the heck? We'll go to 500 films. And so, yeah, I guess kinda to celebrate 500 subscribers, here we are. 500 films, 2024. Yeah. Jay's here to keep me company while we talk about things here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember as the year was going on and you had these various goals, wondering how strict the goals were. Not to have seen more than 365, and then I was on Letterboxd must have been and like, oh, John watched his 365th. I wonder if he's done for the year. And oh, there's another one. Guess not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, okay. I'll say this again. I'm never gonna do this again for another year. I can't do 500 more films. Okay, this is the most films I've
Yeah,
watched in a whole year of my entire life. So I've had a lot of free
yeah,
time. I don't want to do that again. 500 is a lot, to be honest.
yeah. I've made I guess yeah, I've watched almost 400 this year, including rewatches, and it's a lot. I don't know
Mm.
if I could do 500.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it easily. Honestly, 500. If you watch like two films a day, you got that. In fact, that's
Yeah.
600 right there. So it's not a difficult thing to do. It's just it's a lot of just wasting your time, I guess. Essentially. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, depending how you look at it. Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So 500 films is a lot of films. I'm of course not gonna name and talk about every single one of those films because we'll be here for so long. But throughout the year, a bunch of films were watched. I guess like through I don't know. There were some films that they were there for like similarities for some reason. If you know what I mean. Films and like film series and
Yeah.
others that had
Yeah,
like
you had several like themed watch throughs, some of
yeah,
which seemed intentional and some of which I was like, "Oh, John, you've been watching a lot of Spielberg movies this last couple weeks. Is that intentional?"
right, yeah. So sometimes I'll be watching actors, sometimes I'll be watching directors, other times just genres, and then other times just for the heck of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, why don't we take a start here at my list? I made a little list of everything this year, so it's easy to read. You and I have already looked at like the first couple months of this year, when we were just looking at each other's stuff, and we talked about a lot of this stuff in length.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to start out with this year, yeah, I started with the original Godzilla film. And throughout the rest of the year, I did end up watching all of the Godzilla films, all the classic Toho
Wow.
Godzilla films. Yeah. So I pretty much.
Was it intentional when you started the year that you started with Godzilla? Was that something you were thinking of as this is going to be the first of the year?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So this was the first day of the year. Of course, like at that time, Godzilla -1 was a thing. We watched it. We loved it. I was like, okay, let me watch the original one. I guess I'll also watch the rest of the series as well. It took me a few months before I got to the rest of the series, but yeah, started out with Godzilla, good film. Uh,
Yeah.
then I watched a couple DC animated films, Scooby Doo, and DC that crossover, a random Batman thing, and then I watched through the Pink Panther, the classic Pink Panther set of films, with Peter Wellers or Peter Sellers, the physical
Yeah. Yeah.
comic. Those were fun. And then as we move on, watched some more. There's a lot. So some things that you're gonna see a lot of that I've seen this year are DC animated films, and then just I guess some classic films. So here I watched the Rocky films for the first time. So there were 6 Rocky films. I watched them while also watching through the RoboCop, some Terminator and Alien films. I alternated, but the Rocky films I really loved, especially since I was viewing them from the perspective of like Sylvester Stallone's career. Those films are very reflective of his life, and so they were just really interesting to watch. And so, yeah, by the end of them, I think I love Rocky as a character. I love these films, so I bought the Blu-ray of the complete Rocky films after this point, and so yeah,
Oh, nice.
yes, RoboCop films. Those are films. Moving on. All right, Naked Gun trilogy. Uh, fun comedy stuff. I'd seen them before, so
Yeah. Yeah.
this was just like getting them on the list here. All right, Birdman. Skipping that one. Then we got some Wes Anderson. He had released like some shorts last year, so watched through them.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are a pretty easy collection to make your way through. I've seen a couple of them. I haven't completed the set, but I did like the two that I saw. Um, yeah. Then looks like you were doing some DC animated stuff interspersed with, oh, there's the Blob and Aliens and Reservoir Dogs, doing some Tarantino here as well. Um, yeah, I haven't seen most of the DC animated ones, but the Tarantino and Aliens, of course, I've seen those. Fargo as well.
Yeah. So yeah, at this point, I thought I was definitely watching through Tarantino films. Pretty much just like if I saw a film on a streaming platform, then I watched it. I did intentionally watch a lot of things that were leaving streaming services that month, so that was my
Yeah,
priority for a lot of these films. But yeah, classic films from Tarantino. Fargo was one that you told me a lot about, so I finally watched that one. Uh, as we briefly mentioned the Blob, as you'll see throughout later on the year, I would also started watching like classic 50s horror or sci-fi, and so those were fun. I'll get to more on those
yeah,
later. So yeah, a lot of DC animation. You and then I also started watching the mission. We went through the whole Mission Impossible series this year as well. So
yeah.
me and my mom, we watched them. I'd seen them all before, so watching them all again was fun. Those are, I think, that's like the best set of films that have like a decent quality throughout all of them. Cause
Okay.
like
Yeah.
yeah, most films, it's been going on for how many films now? almost,
7
no, more than
with an
7.
eighth on the way.
Yeah, it's been going on for
Mission
so long.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's
Oh
been
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
been going on for so long that like usually films of that amount have like bad films in there. This series has less bad films than good, so that's that's a
Yep,
fun thing to
yep.
have. Yeah. Of course, Monster High, since we were doing that series in the Binging Barbie podcast, go check that out, of
Yep.
course.
Yeah, yeah. We had a lot of fun with those earlier this year.
Yeah. I also went and watched the 3 Willy Wonka films that came out. So the original, the remake, and then the brand new one that came out last year. So,
Okay, I forgot that you had seen that one, the new one.
yeah, that's a film. Uh, we also have the host from Bong Joon-ho. There's a couple of him I think I
Yeah.
saw this year because Christopher kept suggesting films. So, that's one. We've talked in other podcasts about how I feel about Bong Joon-ho, but you know, there it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's
seeing
see.
some Jurassic Park showing up. I mean, in here. Did he
Yes.
just do the original 3? Oh
No,
no, there's the worlds. I see.
yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so what I did at this point is that after the War of the Worlds, it's not listed here, but I also watched Oppenheimer with my mom. And then we watched through the
Okay.
Jurassic Park films. So, Jurassic Park, Oppenheimer, and also Doctor Strangelove. I felt that just those were a fun trio of films to watch together.
Yeah.
Very similar topics and themes, and so those were fun. So yeah, I did watch through all of the Jurassic Park and World films. They were they kind of got worse towards the end. So
Yep.
yeah, but those were films.
Yeah, and then you have some Scorsese mixed in here. You have The Aviator and Wolf of Wall Street and The Irishman a little further down. Are
Yeah,
you a big Scorsese fan?
I mean, I respect his work. I don't always love his stories because his stories, he's really good at doing biopic films about criminals, and so those are really
Yeah.
entertaining to watch. But criminals are bad people, and so uh, the films are not always fun to watch because of just the life of the people are just so terrible. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, they are very interesting to watch. So there's that.
And then I see Lord of the Rings. He did the trilogy. Was there anything special to go along with that, or was that just a regular rewatch?
Yeah, it was just a regular rewatch. I have the extended DVD at Blu-rays, so I just was just
Okay.
itching to watch Lord of the Rings again.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, this is around the time that I rewatched them as well. Maybe a little bit before I rewatched them.
Mhm.
Um, which yeah, the theater I go to was actually showing the extended versions in theaters.
Yeah.
So that was exciting to go and see those.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is like that series of films where I feel like I could watch every day or just rewatch so many
Yeah.
times. If I had just watched them yesterday and then like tomorrow you'll be like, "Hey John, do you want to watch the trilogy again?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'd be down for that." Yeah. So, yeah, those are really good films. 5 stars as you could see here.
Yeah.
Moving down the list here, we have like a random set of films like Society of the Snow. That's of course like a last year's big thing. Or
Yeah. Oscar nominee for foreign language film, I think.
yeah,
So, several different categories it got nominated for.
yeah. So one of the big things that I really wanted to do for this year was like to watch like iconic and classic films that like I've always heard are like fantastic films or fantastic franchises. And so that's why I went through and watched the Rocky films and the RoboCop films and uh, Alien and Terminator, as well as like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or American Psycho. I didn't always love the films they came out, but I gave them a shot. Um,
Yeah.
some were better than others.
Yeah, not every classic is going to go over well with everyone. I know. I haven't finished American Psycho. I did start it. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I see further down you have like Clockwork Orange, which I actually didn't mind that one. Um,
Yeah, that was part
Forrest
of
Gump.
my Kubrick watch through, where I watched some of his films. Uh, you also see like a couple of films here that are part of like directors and actors. So Clint
Yeah,
Eastwood, of course, I love his westerns and some of his other films. So watched some of his films this year, and then Forrest Gump. Of course, I love that film, but I guess that kind of launched my watch through of Tom Hanks films. So
yeah, which I know that gets more influence further down the list in terms of how many Tom Hanks films you watched this year.
yeah, it wasn't like something that I tended to do, but like as I was watching more and more films, I was like, huh, I guess maybe I'll just watch the rest of Tom Hanks' filmology. So
Yeah, yeah.
now I'm very intentional about watching his films. Let's see.
Now we have Meet the Parents, that trilogy here.
That trilogy of films with Ben Stiller. We're getting a fourth one, so that should be
Okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Now, Seven Samurai I'm seeing down here. Had you seen that one before?
No. So this was the start of my Akira Kurosawa film watch through.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah, I
like
see Rashomon right next to it.
right. So I've always been familiar with Kurosawa in general because it's like he's one of the most influential film directors out there for like our modern filmmaking, like inspiring so much of like Spielberg and Lucas's films and ideas. Star Wars is heavily inspired by Kurosawa and Japanese samurai films, and so Seven Samurai was just like, okay, I have to watch this at some point in my life, and so that started through
Yeah.
me watching not only Akira Kurosawa films, but also watching samurai films. I also have the Hunt for Red October, which started my Jack Ryan films.
Yeah, yeah, that's a Jack Ryan if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so Kurosawa films, which were all very good, which also kind of helped me. I usually don't like watching like subtitle films, but watching all these films this year like helped me to just normalize watching through those. So
Yeah, it's a good skill to have if you enjoy watching film because it opens up a lot of international cinema.
yeah,
And yeah, there's a lot of excellent stuff out there. Kurosawa, of course, and I mean samurai stuff. As you're saying, is so influential to so many things. The
yeah,
Western genre. You have the Magnificent Seven here,
yeah,
which
which
is
is
very
a
much. I mean, yeah, it's remake of Seven Samurai, basically.
yeah, and so watching through the samurai films, those are like very massive influences on the Western films. Specifically, spaghetti westerns are heavily inspired
Yeah.
because the film Yojimbo essentially is a fistful of dollars, which
Okay.
a fistful of dollars copied that story and didn't get the rights for that, so they just stole it. Essentially, didn't really give any credit for them as well. So there was a whole thing about that.
Oh man.
But yeah, in the end, they
Oh
fixed some
boy.
things. But hey, influential. Red
Yeah.
Sun
Yeah.
was this I guess was this like crossover of the Western and samurai films, and it has Toshiro Mifune, which is an actor that I respect a whole lot after watching his films this year. So yeah, that's the first
Yeah.
100 set of films of this year. Moving on, we're continuing on with samurai filmmaking with the Samurai trilogy, which stars Toshiro Mifune as he becomes a samurai. Actually, I don't know. It's part of like classic samurai history and folklore, as such.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we continue. I also decided to watch some Schwarzenegger films as well. So here's one of his comedies that he did. On top of that,
Yeah, Twin.
we have Beverly Hills Cop, which I was like, okay, why don't I start getting into the 80s cop film genre? And yep, those are those films. We have
Yeah.
the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 50s horror film. Let's see.
Yeah, and a little further down you have When Worlds Collide
Yes.
as well, another
And The Core.
sci-fi.
And The Core. So that was my... I was wanting to watch some disaster films, and so I watched that. No, those were fun.
Yeah, and then you have like your little Spielberg kick here with The Terminal and Minority Report and all of those like DreamWorks era Spielberg. I don't know if Saving Private Ryan I think is DreamWorks era. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, Terminal up until Saving Private Ryan, that's like 6 films, all directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, Spielberg, a lot of his films were on Paramount Plus, so, you know, went through and watched all of those.
Yeah.
I like Spielberg, so I wanted to watch through his filmography and watched a bunch this year. Watched a couple that I've never seen, like AI and Minority Report, that I've always knew about through some aspect. Then we got some more cop stuff like 48 Hours or Copland. And then
here's another Scorsese with Shutter Island.
Yeah, and that kind of led into like mystery thrillers. So you have that, and then and then continuing on with that, we got to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is... Remind me of the director's name?
That's David Fincher, and you also have his Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah, and earlier in the year, I also watched Zodiac. So
yeah, I was noticing that one up on the list. So another director who you were kind of revisiting several times over throughout the year.
Yes.
Now, yeah, Spielberg again with Tintin. Who knows if we'll ever see the sequel to that one?
I don't know if we ever will. But that's a good fun film. Here we have a couple of like classic Hollywood films that are highly regarded in Sunset Boulevard and The Elephant Man. 2 really well done films. Very different films in general as well.
Yeah, I actually also watched The Elephant Man earlier this year because a podcast I listened to was doing a David Fincher series. So I watched most of his films. I skipped Inland Empire because that just
You mean David Lynch?
But David Lynch. Yes, David Lynch. Too many Davids that make movies.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks for correcting me there.
Yes. Then I have Lincoln, which I think might be my first Daniel Day-Lewis film.
Oh. Yeah, he isn't in a lot of the kind of stuff that I watched growing up.
Right, yeah. But yeah, he did a fantastic job as Lincoln here, so he's caught my attention if I ever want to watch a film with him in.
Yeah, he has a very like an interesting filmography, and I don't think he's in all that many films because he retired relatively recently.
Yeah,
so
I think he's maybe doing another film soon. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if he comes back because he does seem like the kind of actor who acts out of passion rather than as a career. So.
Sure. Yeah. He also puts like so much research into his performances. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Moving on. I'm seeing some blockbusters here with Top Gun and Gravity.
Yeah, Gravity. You remember when this film came out, right?
Yeah, no, it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
I have not seen it since 2013.
Yeah.
And I kind of think I need to rewatch it.
I also just remember it not being talked about positively where we were.
Yeah. I don't know if it was super well received, at least where we were. I mean, in the US, it was picture nomination.
Yeah. I mean, it is a visually impressive film. It is not the most interesting story, though. So,
Yeah, yeah.
let's see.
Some Monster High
More Monster
here.
High. Words bubble up like a soda pop. Cute anime film. Let's see. Can I read the review? Cute. That's my one word review for this film. It's just cute. Alright, let's
More
see.
Tom Hanks with Road to Perdition.
Yes. Road to Perdition. Who's the director for this one?
That is Sam Mendes.
Okay.
I may be wrong on that. Yes, Sam Mendes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom Hanks in a very un-Tom Hanks role as him being a hitman. So
Yep. uh, Gladiator. Was that a rewatch for you, or had you seen it
that
before?
was a rewatch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Gladiator, well-made film, obviously. So, yeah. Then I
Yeah.
continued on with my Western and Kurosawa watch through in these couple films. And then this year I purchased a classic monster movies collection, so here we are watching through all the classic films like Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, those fun
Which
ones.
was your favorite of the bunch?
I think The Invisible Man. That
Okay.
one I was like impressed
hear-
with the effects and the general funness of it.
Yeah, that's the kind I have heard how they achieved the effects, but I need to watch like a deep explainer video to understand, because it seems just so impressive for the time.
Yes. Yes. Also, like Frankenstein and Dracula are the early films that don't have any soundtrack to them, and I really wish they had soundtrack
Okay.
to them because I really needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would make those films stand out a lot more to me.
Yeah, then looks like you did some more old Hollywood with Singing in the Rain, and then you started your Lone Wolf and Cub watch through.
Yeah.
I haven't ever seen that series, but I am very familiar with it via reputation.
Yeah. I mean, those were. It's a different samurai series, I guess, genre, because Lone Wolf and Cub has like influenced a lot of things. Mandalorian, I guess, is an example of that.
Yeah.
It's just a really fun concept of just like you have this overskilled samurai protecting this child, and so it makes for like fun hijinks and such. So this was a fun series to go through just for like the action and such.
Yeah.
Let's see. Escape from Alcatraz, more Eastwood. Let's see. Ah yes, another another Schwarzenegger comedy in Kindergarten Cop. Then
Yep.
yeah, War Games was a fun one. I wasn't expecting it to be as solid as it was, so yeah. I thought it was a horror film. It's not.
Well,
I guess horror at the time, probably. If we're being
yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
But today it's like, it's just a neat little film.
Yep, we have Barbie and Stacy to the rescue here.
Yep, Space
of course,
Odyssey.
watch that for binging Barbie. Yep.
Space Odyssey,
Some
which
more
is,
Universal monsters.
more Kubrick. That one is like visually spectacular, but really hard to follow story-wise.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but it is definitely, I am going to get around to it at some point.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some more Clint Eastwood, some more Westerns here as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So Eastwood does a lot of westerns at that time. So he has a bunch of random ones. So I watch them. He's pretty much the same in a lot of them. Some have different moralities than others, so
Yeah.
there's that. Yep. Some more Kurosawa. More. There were a lot
this-
of classic monster films.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize there were this many sequels and spin-offs, and obviously I've heard of like Abbott and Costello, all of those
Sure.
crossovers, but yeah, that I did not realize that there were this many. Was Night of the Living Dead, was that included in the box set that you got, or was it when you watched separate from that?
Let me see. Is that further down the list?
Yeah, it's after the big collection of Universal movies.
Oh, I'm still not done yet. There's
Oh, you're not that far down.
no
Okay.
go back to Pacific
I've got
Rim.
ahead.
Yeah, you're so far ahead. Yes. Yeah, I alternated films, so Pacific Rim, kaiju, mecha action, pretty fun, pretty cool.
Yeah.
More Kurosawa, more. I think Throne of Blood is Samurai Macbeth. Okay.
Yeah, that's Macbeth.
Yeah.
And then he has a King Lear as well, Ron.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that one.
No, I want to watch Ron. That's something I want to watch. Yeah. Patriot Games. That's Jack Ryan. More
yeah, and I'm
Jack
seeing
Ryan.
Clear and Present Danger as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, Night of the Living Dead. No, that was not part of that box set.
Okay.
Yeah, no. That was just... It was on Max, and so that was one that was like, okay, this is like the most influential zombie film. It's like one of the first, and so watch that. I like it. I don't like the ending. I know the ending is supposed to be intentionally shocking, but I don't know.
Yeah. I had the opposite reaction where I thought the ending was very profound. But yeah, that very influential zombie movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. More Kurosawa with Ikaru. Then we have the first this guy. Shyamalan in Unbreakable that I watched this year.
Yes.
So
I didn't realize you watched multiple. I guess we'll be talking about those as those come up later. I did a full Shyamalan rewatch.
yeah, I didn't go through a whole Shyamalan rewatch, but I watched like one or two here that I felt I wanted to watch.
Yeah. Another David Fincher with The Social Network, and another Tom Hanks with Greyhound, which he actually wrote the screenplay for that.
Yeah, Greyhound was like,
interesting.
I think my first Apple TV Plus film that I watched.
Okay.
So, that one was like a really fun warship film. Later on, we watched Battleship from Hasbro, and so we compare it to this one a lot because this one's just like a much better version of Battleship.
Yeah, much more accurate to the game than the one that is actually based on the game. Weirdly.
Yeah. Moving on to the next page of films. That was 200 films that we just went through. Now we're going on to our 300 ones. Bridge of Spies. Another Tom Hanks / Spielberg, I think.
Yes, it is a Spielberg, yeah.
Yeah, it's convenient to watch Tom Hanks and Spielberg because they collab a lot, so...
Yes.
No, that one was...
then we started our High School Musical.
Yeah, High School Musical. That was fun.
Those were fun.
Here, I definitely was like very intentional. It's like, okay, now I'm going to be starting watching Tom Hanks. And so I watched Finch, Apollo 13, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Sully.
Speaking of Clint Eastwood.
I was pretty much... I was shocked by A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood at how much I enjoyed it. I think
Are you a Mr. Rogers fan?
I didn't grow up with him, but I'm familiar with his essence, I guess.
Yeah. This is one of my dad's favorite films because he did grow up watching Mr. Rogers, so...
Yeah.
He really enjoyed this one when we saw it in the theater, actually. We went to see it.
Yeah. Apollo 13. Yeah. Apollo 13, I really enjoy like space stuff.
Yeah.
And so I watched like a couple things, like shows parallel to this as well. Solely, that's Clint Eastwood. That was a biopic story. Then we also started our Transformers series here, or at
Yeah.
least I started watching in
Yeah,
preparation.
you watched ahead of for those. Yeah, and then it looks like you did Hunger Games, a full watch through of the Hunger Games, including
Yeah.
the prequel.
Me and my mom watched through the series. It had been a while, and so I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay, I'm gonna log these films. For me, the
What?
first two are my favorites, and then
Okay.
the rest are other films.
Yeah, I agree, except I do really like the prequel.
Sure, yeah, prequels are right. Here I started watching through some Ape films in preparation for the new film that was coming out. So, I watched that Caesar trilogy. And then also here at this point I started my James Bond watch through, which went on
Yeah.
through like the rest of the year, essentially. So started out with the Connery films. You've only
Now we're
seen the Daniel Craig films, correct?
Yeah, and I've seen one of the Brosnans. I
Okay.
believe we watched it together. So of the Connery ones, which is your favorite?
I think Goldfinger.
Okay.
Because Goldfinger
That's the one I hear the most about.
Goldfinger pretty much gave you what most Bonds follow. Like their Bond has like classic villains, gadgets, stuff like that, big plots and such.
Yeah.
So, of the Connery films, that one was the one I enjoyed the most. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing Taken here, so some Liam Neeson. Oh, multiple Takens.
Yeah, I watched the Taken trilogy. Not a good idea. Oh yeah, so this pretty much watching the Bonds film pretty much launched me watching through spy and action films. And so I watched, of course, Taken, and then after some High School Musical, some more Jack Ryan and the Die Hard films. So
Yeah.
those were fun. Leave 3, Die Hard, and then Sharp Plays, Fabulous Adventure. You know, just
Quite the double feature there.
quite the double features. All those films go together, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and more Clint Eastwood with American Sniper, I see.
Yeah. The Die Hard films were a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Okay.
The last one's pretty bad, but yeah, they were all fun. Yeah, more Clint Eastwood, then some just random films. Mexico Wins, that's Taika. My Cousin Vinny, that's a fun comedy. Life of Pi, that one visually looks cool. And then some more Tom Hanks in Castaway and Captain Phillips.
Yeah. Those I actually rewatched Captain Phillips, or was present during a rewatch of Captain Phillips while my mom and sister were watching that. I remember seeing that in a theater and being really impressed with it.
I remember when that came out. Remember when we in high school we were part of that chat group, or the debate group after school.
Yeah.
That ended up with just like you, me, and Toa, and so you were just talking about films. And so Captain Phillips and I think World War Z were the two films that were out at the same time, and so we were talking about those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hellboy 2, that was... I had not seen the second one ever, so I finally got around to watching it. Then we've got 6
Yeah, I think
Days...
that's my favorite of the two.
Yeah, it's good. I might like the first one more.
Okay.
I like the simplicity of the first one more, but I do also like the second one. I wish we got the third one.
That would be nice if they would bring him back for another.
Yeah. Every
Bring
now
all
and
of them
then,
back, I guess.
I would go ahead and watch a Harrison Ford film. So 6 Days, 7 Nights. It's a film. The only thing of note is that they are on the island of Matanui in the
Oh,
film.
I remember you bringing that up. Yeah, when
Yep.
we were doing our Bionicle.
Yeah. Like, oh, it's like, oh, what island are we on? Like, oh crap, we're on the island of Matanui. And I'm like, oh, really? Where's our robots at? Looks so much different. And then
When
here I started getting into some Wes Anderson. So
yeah,
had some Rushmore, Dodging Limited, Royal Tenenbaums, couple more Tom Hanks film like Big, That Thing You Do, couple more Schwarzeneggers in Terminator 2, and True Lies, which True Lies is pretty much a James Bond film if it was directed by James Cameron and it was um, Schwarzenegger as the lead. So
okay.
that one
Yeah,
was
I've heard a lot about it. I know they did a recent it was very difficult to find until very recently. Just on streaming, it wasn't really available. So
okay.
definitely need to get around to that one.
Yeah. And then I continued on with my James Bond films by starting with Roger Moore, which Roger Moore
Yeah.
might be one of my favorite Bonds just because he's so
Okay.
British and posh. Like, his films are not the greatest, but I just love his energy in a lot of them. They're campy. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
entertaining. Even when they're bad, they're very entertaining. For sure. There's
It looks like you did some disaster movies as well coming up with Deep Impact in Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane.
yeah.
And I guess Age of Extinction Transformers, that's a disaster movie in a certain way.
Yeah, and Planet of the Apes from Tim Burton.
Oh yeah,
that's
that too.
that's a disaster. Not a disaster movie, but a disaster of a film. Yeah.
Or Tom Hanks with A Hologram for the King. I was surprised when you logged this one, just because I know it mainly because the director Tom Tykwer does a lot of work with the Wachowskis. So I was surprised that you had logged this, but then it makes more sense knowing that you are looking for Tom Hanks movies to watch.
Yeah. You know,
Not one of his most well known, but
this was
it
one
is
where
a Tom Hanks movie.
it was like, huh, this is an obscure Tom Hanks thing. It's like, okay, I guess I'll watch this. And so there's that. There's Sleepless in Seattle, which is of his rom coms that I've seen. This is probably one of my favorites of his.
Okay.
Here I think I'm starting to get into Stallone after his Rocky films. So First Blood, which is his Rambo series.
Yeah.
I think I like of the. I've watched the first 3 of the Rambo films. I think the first one's my favorite
Okay.
because that's the more complete emotional journey, I guess. Because the other 2 just become more action films, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
More Scorsese here with King of Comedy.
Yeah. Also a lot more Tom Hanks with Philadelphia,
Yep.
The Great Book Howard. Although that one, he's just in the cameo in that one. Then Charlie Wilson's
Okay.
War. Well, let's see.
Yeah, some Braveheart, Mel Gibson, and then Harrison Ford. You said you were coming back to throughout the year, so you have Witness here.
Yeah, and Amadeus. I was wanting to watch like classic regarded films, so Amadeus and Braveheart I know are like beloved films, so watch that. And then here at this point I'm getting into some Hitchcock films. Yeah. So The Catch a Thief, Rope might not be Hitchcock. It is.
Rope is Hitchcock.
Yeah, Rope was pretty good. I would see a stage play of Rope.
Yeah, because it takes place in that one apartment, so it would work pretty well. I have to imagine someone's done a stage play.
It might be from a stage play, because like all the
That might be the
direction
case.
is just like in 1 or 2 rooms, and a lot of it's just like long takes. So
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm seeing some other classic Hollywood. I guess Lord of the Flies, I don't know if that's Hollywood, but You Can't Take It With You.
Yeah, The Man Who Knew Too Much.
You have the New Planet of the Apes, catching up with that one.
Yeah.
Some war movies here with
We
We
Were
Were
Soldiers,
Soldiers and
that's Mel
Flags of the
Gibson.
Fathers.
Yeah. And then...
Did you watch?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
What were you gonna ask?
Oh no, I was just wondering if you watched Letters to Iwo Jima to go along with Flags of Our Fathers.
No. No, I have not seen that this year.
Okay. Yeah, I know those were paired together when they were released, but I don't really know much about them, so I can't comment on that too much.
Yeah, I don't think that film was on the streaming service that I was watching. So.
Okay, yeah.
Then we have Mazes and Monsters, which is one of Tom Hanks' earlier entries, one of his first films, which is not a good film. I enjoyed the first 30 minutes, and then it started to get into the main issue of the film, of like the Dungeons and Dragons propaganda. That what a time. But
yeah,
Tom
he
Hanks
looks so
is
young on the poster.
yes, but Tom Hanks is solid in that film, so that's the one thing that I can say about watching through a lot of his films this year, is that he's pretty consistently a solid actor. So
Yeah.
and we got News of the World, whatever that is. That's a film. Murder by Death.
It's a Western.
Yeah, Murder by Death, which is a comedy that hasn't aged the best, for sure. Yeah. I was disappointed by that one. I was hoping that it would be more fun than it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also seeing here you started a bunch of your Godzilla watch through. Looks like going through a lot of the just early era, the Showa era, is it?
Yeah, so went through the Showa era. I watched through all the films in order, of course, so went through the Showa era, because all of those films are on Max because they're part of the Criterion Collection. So
yeah,
watched them all. Some of them I just watched on my phone while I watched the soccer game, because some of them were like starting to get into just reusing footage, and so it just wasn't as important to pay attention all the time. But yeah, those were a lot of films. Those were a lot of Godzilla films that I was watching. Like, to be fair, it was like 2 months of soccer I was watching as well, so...
yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like 300 films at this point. Have you seen any of the Showa era?
I have not. I do have the Criterion, so that is on my radar as something to go through. Part of it is I want a reason to go through them.
Okay.
So when I have a good reason, I am fully planning on watching through them all.
What? Just
any long-running franchise like that, just I find interesting as a general concept.
Sure. Yeah, watching it in order, you start to get really tired towards the end, and so.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because a lot of it's like pretty much the same. Here we start getting into the Heisei era, which I had never really watched at this point because they're really hard to find. Of course, they have not yet been easily available. Only now are they starting to get into the Criterion Collection, I think.
Yeah, they just announced Godzilla versus Biolante,
yes.
However you pronounce that,
Biolante
is being added in March. Yeah.
Yeah, the Heisei era, I think, from Toho was probably the best in terms of Godzilla filmmaking.
Okay.
Yeah. No, those were really solid films. And at this point as well, I'm also starting my rewatching of Ghibli films, starting with My Neighbor Totoro.
I know we've had this conversation before. I don't know if we've had it on mic, but what's your favorite of the Ghiblis?
Um, Whisper of the Heart is my favorite
Okay.
Ghibli film.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, I like it because it's. I really like slice of life anime for some reason because it's
Yeah.
just like how extra they animate like the simplest things. It's like it's peaceful, it's enjoyable. I really like the emotions of that film and the general story, which when I watched it the first time, it was really relevant to my life. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess from Miyazaki, my favorite would be Kiki's Delivery Service.
Mm, yeah. I that's my favorite of his as well.
Yeah, so at this point I was like alternating between Godzilla and Ghibli films. So now we're getting into the Millennium era, which is a weird era for Godzilla because each film is just like a different thing. It's not connected.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see how they re-envisioned things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing this is a bit further down, but you have some more Scorsese here with Raging Bull.
Yeah, Raging Bull, another war film that has Kiki Aramin, which is I think a HBO film. So
Okay.
pretty
Is that
lower,
Lawrence Fishburne?
yeah, pretty lower budget, but solid telling of that story.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense from Shyamalan, a
Yeah.
rewatch that I've seen before. Yeah, a lot of Ghibli films, a lot of Ghibli.
Yeah. I am curious because around this time I was doing a Ghibli watch through with some friends, and I saw for the first time The Tale of Princess Kaguya.
Hmm.
And I loved it so much that I immediately messaged you, "Hey, I know you're doing a Ghibli watch through. I think you need to see this one." Was this one that you were planning on doing anyway as part of your rewatch, or
Yeah, I think so. I was
okay.
anyway. Then you messaged me. I was like, okay, well now I'm really gonna watch it. So yeah, it is one of the best animated films, like animated, like work wise out
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah, I know you weren't nearly as in love with it as
I
I
I I
was. I have
wasn't
now.
as in love with the story, but I really loved the
Yeah.
visuals. Like it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I have since rewatched it, and it is now one of my 4 favorite films of all time on Letterboxd. So
Okay.
I love the story as well. But no, the animation is gorgeous.
I'm gonna use the restroom. Would you like to talk about Ghibli films while I go?
Yeah, I could do more on Ghibli films. I'm
Okay.
always happy to talk about Ghibli. Um, yeah, looks like John went through My Neighbor Totoro and Nausicaa, classic Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky, one that I think is often overlooked, but I really enjoy that one. Just it's maybe one of Miyazaki's most accessible from like a if you're coming from Western animation. It's very more plot driven than a lot of his other more recent films are. Spirited Away, incredible, obviously. Um, I haven't rewatched Secret World of Arietti, but I am going to be doing that soon, and I'm looking forward to that one. I remember really liking it when I saw it the first time. John's already talked about Whisper of the Heart. That is incredible. Anyone who enjoys Ghibli who hasn't seen this one yet, seek it out. It is phenomenal. Um, from Up on Puppy Hill, I enjoy in some ways and also not in other ways. It's an odd one. Wind Rises, of course, and Ponyo, Miyazaki. I love all of Miyazaki's films. I don't know where John falls on that. But then, yeah, I'm also seeing Only Yesterday here, which John watched after Tale of Princess Kaguya, and that is one that I need to rewatch at some point. That's one of the best Takahatas. Isao Takahata, the director.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't mention this earlier, but like I essentially watched 30 some Godzilla films. So,
Oh wow.
a lot of
Yeah.
Godzilla.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there were 30 Universal Monster films in the DVD collection I got. There was 30 some Godzilla films that I watched. There were however many Ghibli films that I watched. So we have
Yeah, so that really filled out your year there.
Oh yeah, that helped a lot, of course. Oh, and not even to mention James Bond that I'm still watching at this point, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Then I think after only yesterday I took a break from Ghibli, or I had finished what I wanted to see. Yeah, that looks like it.
Yeah. I think you'd seen most of them up until that point. There's only a few stragglers, and most of the ones aren't particularly well liked.
Or the
only
ones that I wanted to see
yeah.
weren't on streaming at
Okay.
or
Yeah.
something like that. Something happened. Let's see. Twister.
You have some disaster movies here. Twister, yeah. Airport, isn't that a disaster movie?
Yeah, Airport is one of the first disaster films out there that really changed the genre. Airport's actually a really solid film that I'm surprised nobody ever talks about these films because they're essentially what inspired Airplane. So,
yeah, it's the weird thing where the parody became more popular than the actual original.
Yeah,
thing.
Airplane is a full-on parody remake of Airport 1975. Like the whole film, just so many elements. Yeah, I like the first Airport the best, and then maybe the third one second. The second one's not that best, not that great. Neither was Battleship.
I'm seeing some more Schwarzenegger here with the Conan the Barbarians,
Yes,
and the Running Man and Junior.
Yes, then also a little bit of George Lucas with American Graffiti. Yeah, Running Man was interesting, but the ending, I was like, there's not really much of an ending. Have you ever seen The Running Man?
I have not. It is on my list.
Okay, well, you'll probably see what I mean whenever you watch it, but it ends, the way they ended, they're like, okay, we're gonna live happily, and I'm like, no, you're not. You haven't even finished what's going on yet. Junior was not a great Schwarzenegger film, but it was a film to watch, I guess. Some more Tom Hanks and Spielberg with Turner, Hooch, and Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
Yeah. And then I'm seeing some, at Eternity's Gate, I'm kind of surprised that you watched this one. What was the reasoning behind that one?
So my mom...
Just out of curiosity.
So my mom loves Vincent van Gogh's work. And so...
Okay.
I was like, Vincent van Gogh film. Let's watch it. It was a weird film to watch, for sure.
Indeed.
Let's see.
Yeah, some mystery here with And Then There Were None.
Yeah.
And then a few anime I'm seeing as well.
Couple anime films, Ni no Kuni and Mabaryoshi. Just like random anime films that like I see on Netflix and such. Just like, okay, I'll watch these films. Because I typically do enjoy anime films. These were a little underwhelming, but they were films. I was watching older films at this point, like Duck Soup, and Then There Were None, 39 Steps. Just like random things to watch with Mom.
Yeah.
And then
some more Tom Hanks as well here with The Circle and A Man Called Otto.
You're way up ahead. You're way up ahead.
I'm up ahead.
Yes. Yeah, up ahead. So here I'm like also watching like old Hollywood classics like Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai. Fantastic films. Lawrence of Arabia I've always heard it was like a fantastic film, and it looks very beautiful. I love the long.
Yeah.
I love the cinematography of this film. Like, there's a lot of scenes where it's just like a really long take of just nothingness of the desert. It's like a 3-4 hour long film. I wouldn't cut any of it
Yeah.
because it's just how beautiful it all looks. So
Yeah, I need to rewatch this one. I haven't seen it in many years, but it's one that I need to get around to again.
yeah. Random film Dante's Peak. That's a bit of a disaster film. And then I also
Yeah.
watched Jason and the Argonauts, which kind of is the beginning of me watching Ray Harryhausen, because I had never seen any of his
Okay.
films, but I'm very
Yeah.
familiar with the name. Classic visual effects, clay motion director. Sorry, not director, just special effects person. And
Yeah.
as you were saying,
Very influential.
I also was watching Tom Hanks with The Circle, Man Called and The Money Pit, just random. Also, The Burbs.
Yeah. It looks like you did some Karate Kid around this time as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Getting ready for the upcoming one, I
Yep.
assume.
I mean, that wasn't the main reason. It was kind of yes, but also just kind of I wanted to rewatch those films, and then also it was just like, okay, Cobra Kai still, that season was coming soon, so I was
Yeah.
watching those films for that. Then I watched the 3 Justice League films that I waited a whole year to watch and was pretty disappointed by. I would recommend checking out those specific reviews because I put my heart into that one. You could tell how sad I was.
Oh yeah, that's a longer review that I'm used to seeing from you for just the first one. I'll have to circle back and read those reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Swamp Thing, keeping with the DC.
Yeah. Keeping with the DC films, I think also at this point I'm starting to get into Tubi, and so I'm watching just
Okay.
like some of the obscure DC films and such. Then
Yeah.
Rambo 2 and 3, those action films. Casino, that's another Scorsese film. And
Yeah.
then
And then some James Bond.
returning to James Bond, where I would eventually finish watching James Bond. So the end of Roger Moore's run, then into Timothy Dalton, and then Pierce Brosnan. I was just watching James Bond after James Bond and such, essentially.
So is Roger Moore your favorite Bond overall?
I don't know. I think so.
I guess yeah, then distinguishing between Bond as a performance and Bond like the different eras, which is your favorite era?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite era.
Okay.
I never fully loved each of the Bond films. They're all different. I mean, they're
Yeah.
the same but different. So there was never one that I was fully in love with James Bond. I was like, yes, I enjoyed them. I like them, but I was never like, yes, James Bond. This is what I'm here for. So
Yeah. Do you have a favorite overall of all of the franchise, or not really?
Skyfall.
Okay.
Skyfall's a really good one. That one is honoring 50 years of James Bond, I think. So
Yeah, it came out around some anniversary. I believe it was the 50 years.
and so that one was kind of like a culmination of those 50 years. Like, yeah, so that was a good
Yeah.
one. I think also on Her Majesty's Secret Service is the first James Bond film to try and do something personal for Bond.
Okay. sort of the Godzilla minus one of James Bond, as
Kind,
it were.
kinda like not as personal as the Craig films get to, but like the first time it does something significant with Bond that kind of stays with him as a character a bit. So,
Okay.
and that's the one Bond film from George Lazenby. His only Bond film.
Yeah, I knew that there was um one Bond actor who didn't really get much of a chance.
Well, he did the one film and then he just said like, okay, I'm done. I had fun with the one. I don't want to do anymore. So
Good for him, I guess.
yeah, like he wasn't even an actor. He was a model.
Okay.
He was a model. Like there's a whole documentary about him becoming Bond. And he was essentially just like he was a person who looked and kind of acted like Sean Connery's Bond, and they're like, okay, why don't you audition? And he did. And it's like, you're just like Bond. And so he did the film. And the thing is, he announced that he was not doing the second Bond during like a live performance interview on TV. It was like, so what do you think about doing Bond? I was like, yep, this is my only one I'm going to do. He did not tell the studio or anyone else. And so they were upset about that one.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
But yeah, I think he was a good Bond as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I need to get around to the Bonds eventually. I like the Godzilla ones. That's the franchise that I am curious to see, if only to see how it changes over the years.
Yeah. And of course, like I had purchased like the complete Bond collection, so that's why I also
Yeah.
watched through all the films.
Yeah, I have my eyes on that for when it goes on sale for a price that
Yeah.
I would be willing to spend on it.
Yeah, so that was 400 films, and now we're on to my final 100 films.
Yeah.
Zero, we have Spectre and No Time to Die, the last two Daniel Craig films. Spectre is a rough one, because they try to do stuff, but they just weren't the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, this film, the opening of this film is just hentai, because of the octopus.
Yeah,
I don't know.
with the yep.
Yep, it was a weird opening. Alright. Some more Tom Hanks film. Here I'm like on Tubi watching the obscure ones like Joe versus the Volcano and the Band Fire of the Vanities. Commando,
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, random films here and there. Like Italian Job.
Yeah. Heist movies there.
Yeah. Here I'm watching some more anime films. So Flavors of Youth, which this is like an anthology of stuff, which was alright. Michael Clayton.
Yeah, I've seen that one, weirdly.
Yeah.
I think. Michael Clayton, yeah. I need to see that one.
Yeah. That one takes it takes a bit until you understand what's going on. Like, but once you get it, you get it. So, Dragnet, more Tom Hanks. And then I started watching the remakes of, like, the classic horror ones. So, Invasion the Body Snatchers, the 70s remake.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of the remakes are better than the original. So, there's that one. Oh, boy.
I'm seeing a lot of Oh, go ahead.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm seeing a lot of Wachowski adjacent projects with a hologram for the King, of course, and you had Speed Racer earlier on, and now V for Vendetta, which they of course produced.
And so here I start watching the Gamera films, which was pretty much, it's like the Godzilla copycat from a different studio. So
Okay.
So there are like 14 of those films. I also watched the Netflix Godzilla animated films, which are not very good. as well.
Yeah, the animated ones.
Yeah. See, Harlem Nights, which has Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and just classic black comedians. That was alright.
Yeah.
Grave of the
Oh, I missed that you
Fireflies.
had seen. Yeah, I missed that you had seen Grave of the
Yeah,
Fireflies.
because that one went to Netflix, which was like,
Oh, I didn't realize it was on
no,
Netflix.
yeah, it was like shocking. It was like, oh, it just popped up on Netflix and was like, what? It's the only Ghibli film on Netflix right now. But it was like
Yeah.
the one film that was like,
It
I
it
want to
has
watch this
weird
one.
right stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure who has the rights, but yeah, it's never included with the other Ghibli films in the US for some reason.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Yeah, I had to buy the Blu-ray in order to watch it when I wanted to a year ago or so.
yeah, this was one that I really wanted to watch because I understood that it was a really well-made film, and it is.
Yeah.
It is grim. It is dark and
Yes.
sad, and I'll let you know from the
Yeah.
first minute. 5 centimeters per second, another anthology anime thing. Return to Swamp Thing, Marrying the Witch's Flower, 20th Century Girl. That's one of Christopher's favorite films. And so
Yeah.
he wanted me to watch it, and so I did. It is a good film. It is a really good romance. And it's one of the
Okay.
worst romances you can make.
Is it miscommunication?
No.
Okay.
No. It's one that's really good that has a twist.
Okay.
I
I am
won't say
curious to see it
anymore
at some point.
until you watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Uh Breakfast at Tiffany's was one that I knew was a classic. I was pretty disappointed with this film. I don't
Okay.
fully get why it's a classic. And now
Yeah. I haven't seen it,
yeah,
so I can't.
and now I'm starting to get into the classic sci-fi. So Forbidden Planet, the Blob remake, Her Blue Sky, Penguin Highway. Those are both animes. Stargate.
Yeah, I've seen Stargate.
Stargate is a film.
Have you seen any of the TV show?
No, no. So
I haven't either, but my
yeah.
mom is a big fan.
So now that I've watched the film, I'll go ahead and watch the TV shows. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like one of those sci-fi things that's like, oh, you have Star Trek, Star Wars, and then you got Battlestar Galactica and Stargate and other random things that I was always aware of but never got into. So got into Stargate.
Yeah.
I liked the first half of that film. That one's Roland Emmerich, who...
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had seen that. Oh, yeah. He makes a very particular kind of movie.
He does. Yes. They can be alright, and they can be pretty bad. He's a director who doesn't quite have a signature style. He does, but he doesn't.
I mean, big explosions and disaster.
Sure, you could say that. Patriots. There was a couple Mel Gibson films here and there because they were well-made films. So, yeah. Great Escape. Jonah Hex. Some more Gamera films. Showa era Gamera is not that great.
Okay. Have Gamera and Godzilla ever
Never.
crossed over? I didn't realize that they were separate companies.
Yeah, no,
behind them. I just assumed it was all.
they've never crossed over. Like, people have always wanted them to cross over, but they've never crossed over.
Yeah.
No. The only crossover is in the Death Battle video. So. Yeah.
Well, hey, that almost counts.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Paddington 2. Those are films. Silence of the Lambs. That's a classic one. Have you seen this one?
I have. This is one of my all-time favorite thrillers. I need to rewatch it at some point. I have the Criterion, and yeah, I just it is one that really grips me when I watch it.
Yeah, it was really well done. Then there was the 2005 Constantine film starring Keanu Reeves. Terribly miscast. Terribly miscast. But somewhat entertaining film, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to be watching it very soon for our top 5 of 2005 list.
Oh, are you now? Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll make it onto the list, but
Sure. And then there's The Thing from Another World. I think we kind of glanced over it, but I saw The Thing this year as well. The
okay.
John
Yeah,
Carpenter The Thing film.
yeah.
So this was the original film that The Thing was a remake of. So, yeah. Then that, yeah. Also, yeah. This is like me watching the classic horror films. So Them, the giant ants film.
Yeah. Looks like you were kind of doing one Gamera and one Hollywood or
Yeah. So
Western
like I watched the Gamera
film.
film early in the morning, and then I watched like a Them film the evening. So that's how my day was.
Okay.
And then Gamera during the Heist era had like 3 films that are all very good films. Like it
Okay.
is shocking just the how much the quality changed in those 3 films to the point where like they even rival the best of Godzilla as well sometimes. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Yeah. So some of these films were part of the Ray Harryhausen films, so he would do
Yeah.
some special effects for these films, including Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. It came from Beneath the Sea, those type of films. I have Demolition Man from Stallone, which is kind of like Running Man for Stallone.
Okay.
Like aesthetic wise, like not plot wise, but aesthetic wise, those were
Yeah.
the similar things. And then I watched some films by a director.
Oliver Stone?
Oliver Stone. Yes. Partially because of John Williams. So at this point I
Yeah.
was also being like, oh, I'll watch some John Williams films for that music. And so Born on the 4th of July, JFK, stuff like that, where these are very patriotic films. Yeah. And so the rest of this point was like Ray Harryhausen and other random stuff. Train to Busan, I watched.
Yeah. You had a funny anecdote on that about in something we just recorded.
Yeah, I've said this anecdote a couple times, but essentially it's just like, oh, I've always thought that this film was like a non-fiction disaster film. Just like looking at the cover, I see like a train, like a man and a girl. Like I always thought it was like some like disaster happened, like an earthquake or a tsunami happened, and he's like trying to find his loved ones. And I watched the film, and it's a zombie film, and it's like, oh, that's not at all what I thought it was. But
Yep.
really, really solid film. Let's see, Heartbreak Ridge, which is Eastwood.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say about that one. Eastwood is like old macho stuff that doesn't age well these days, of course. But
Yeah.
you know, watched a couple more war films in Platoon and Casualties of War. Those are set in Vietnam. I've not really seen much films from that.
Yeah.
Logan's Run.
Like some dystopia with Logan's Run and Future World.
Yeah, some dystopia there. Yeah. Capricorn 1, which is pretty much just like faking the moon landing, but like on Mars.
Oh.
And it's also interesting because it came out less than a decade after the moon landing itself. And there's like
Oh,
already
wow.
yeah, that's what's interesting about this film. I don't like the ending because it just ends kind of anticlimactically, but it is a film. Yeah. So Midway, Friends Dispatch. Some more Tom Hanks, probably the last Tom Hanks of the year that I've seen.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the rest of this year was like a random sprinkles of films. It was just me trying not to surpass 50 films. So, we have Mononoke, which is an anime film. Have I talked to you about this one?
Yeah, you mentioned the art style, and I looked up the trailer, and it is a very striking
It
art style, though. To be honest, I can't tell what's happening half the time.
No, yeah, that's the entire film. I have no idea what's happening this entire film. But like it's so overstimulating, the visual aesthetic, but
Yeah.
you could tell that they put a lot of effort into it. And it's apparently the beginning of a trilogy that they're releasing, so
Oh.
we'll have to see.
Let's just see how that pans out.
Parts of the Caribbean, this is when I watched with Christopher, so I introduced it to him. Then was just watching just some fun things like Holes. Do you remember Holes? Have you seen Holes?
Yeah, I've read the book more times than I've watched the movie, so I remember the book more.
Okay.
But yeah, I am familiar with Holes.
Yeah. The Three Worlds of Gulliver, that's fine. I think Jingle All the Way is my last Schwarzenegger of the year. So that's his Christmas comedy.
Yeah.
The weird one.
Appropriate time for it.
Yeah. Then there was The Deer Hunter, which I found to be pretty underwhelming. Because I'd always heard it's this excellent film. It's like, I didn't really get it. So.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams was a quaint thing. Watched it because of James Earl Jones. So.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he had passed away this year, so wanted to watch some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Sonic 3. We did that. Failsafe, which is from a director that I'm starting to get more interest in. Sidney Lumet.
Oh, Sidney Lumet, yeah.
Who is most famous for 12 Angry Men, but this was one that I caught my eye. What's interesting about this one is that it's the same story essentially as Doctor Strangelove, and it came out the exact same year as that film. So,
yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, I remember reading your review and them comparing the two, as one is a comedy and the other takes it more seriously. So I am curious to see Failsafe now. I very much like Doctor Strangelove. I think it's quite funny and insightful. So
yeah, that's a film that I enjoy more the more I watch it after like learning some historical context and filmmaking stuff. So this one is like, that's interesting how those two films were competing. So
yeah.
Yes. And then the rest of the year... Oh, actually, no. Total Recall is the last Schwarzenegger film that I watched. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. That one has some really good, like, special effects in there. The rest of the year was pretty much watching, like, animated films, like animated DC films that I had yet to log, including a couple motion comic films. Do you know those? What those are?
Yeah, where it's, basically just the comic frames, but they move a little bit and it's narrated.
Yeah, there were a couple of those on Tubi, so I watched Red Sun and Batgirl Year One. Watched a disaster film called Earthquake. That's a film. The earthquake lasted like 10 minutes.
Oh.
It was a really long time. It had a really Bummer of an ending.
Hmm.
Yeah, then I watched Ghost of the Shell, which I know you like, so you tell us about this film.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's very influential, but it doesn't bear a whole lot of resemblance to the things it has influenced, at least in the West. Obviously, The Matrix was inspired by it, but more so aesthetically and with some of the themes than actually tonally or structure wise. It's one where I have rewatched this maybe 4 or 5 times since the first time I saw it. And I can't really claim to understand all of what it is saying, but each time I rewatch it, I understand a little bit more. So, one of my favorites. I know you weren't as big of a fan this first watch through.
Yeah, I knew that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it my first watch through because you had told me these things and how it's like complicated to understand and such. But I was always because of that, because of your love for it, I was always intimidated to watch it because it's like, I don't know if I want to watch this and not understand it. Uh, Also, the main protagonist is like nude for half the film, and so like that's uncomfortable to watch. Um, but yeah, visually, artistically, well done. I
Yeah.
don't get the story. I also felt like the story was just like, oh, I only watched like half a story and it just ends. I was like waiting for more to
It,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
It definitely does feel that way. The ending kind of shows up out of nowhere and doesn't completely make sense unless you have an idea of what's going on. But
Right.
no, the animation is stunning. Did you at least enjoy like the action scenes of I mean my favorite is the invisibility stuff earlier
Yeah.
on in the
No.
film.
It was cool. The animation was great.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta say.
When it's like when they're in that like I mean they're running down this alleyway where the buildings are around them and it looks like Hong Kong Kowloon walled city and then they go out to this like wide open spot that's just like the city's behind them and it's covered in like a thin layer of water and she's invisible and she's fighting someone who is visible and you're just seeing the splashes of water and then her shadow and that's all that you can see of her. It's one of my favorite action scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. Then also I have the very first live action depiction of Batman in the 1943 serials, which
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, they were on Tubi. They have like the whole collection in like one film, which is like 3.5 hours. I I
Oh
would
boy.
not recommend watching that because it's so gosh darn repetitive. Like Batman fights the same four goons every like 20 minutes in like the exact same way. And it always ends with him getting beaten, about to die, which I assume is the cliffhangers of those things. And then
Yeah.
him escaping, the goons going to the boss and saying like, "Oh, we didn't do our thing because Batman showed up, but we got him this time." And that's the exact same thing they keep repeating every 20 minutes until the end of the film. Yeah, the villain is a non-Japanese person playing a Japanese person with a fake
Oh
accent and
boy.
bad makeup. And
Speaking of James Bond,
yeah, this one though, it's like a year or two after Pearl Harbor, and so you could definitely really feel the
oh
animosity at that time
yeah,
because every time someone sees that character, they're like, "A Jap," and
oh
it's a
boy,
film. It's at that time. I would never. I don't think it's great, but it is certainly influential for being the first live
yeah,
action Batman. I can appreciate it for that, but I wouldn't say it's great. Some more DC animation, and the last film that I watched this year is the film Cube. Yeah, have you seen this film?
I have. Yeah, I actually have seen this one. I remember really liking the mystery of it. and just the way it approaches the mystery and doesn't explain too much. Yeah, I think horror films often have a problem of once they have explained things too much, it gets less engaging. So this one, not really resolving everything that it sets up, I actually really enjoyed.
Right.
Obviously, massively influential for a whole lot of different things. Recently, I was on a friend's podcast doing an episode on Infinity Train, which is
Hmm.
Cube for kids, but with some of its own things brought in. You would enjoy Infinity Train,
Sure.
John.
Yeah, I saw the pilot when that came out. I haven't seen
Okay,
the
yeah,
rest of the
yeah.
show, of course. But yeah.
It's worth getting into, even though it's been sold and it's impossible to find. But
Yeah. Uh but yeah, this is just me trying to find a film to watch. This one was leaving Prime in a few days. And so um I know that there's a episode of Clone Wars that's heavily inspired by this. And the episode is
okay,
called
yeah,
The Box, where a bunch of characters go into a box with different rooms and they have to like survive the box. That one's a fun
yeah. I
one.
have vague memories of that one. I
Yeah,
need to
that's
find
that's
that and rewatch it.
that's the one with different bounty hunters trying to whittle
Okay,
down
yeah, yeah,
to be the best ones. It's like Squid Game for bounty hunters, I guess. And Cube. But yeah, I've always liked that episode, and so this one was fun as well. Not as exciting. Not as exciting, but interesting for sure.
yeah,
Math. But yeah, that's 500 films that I've seen this year. Yes.
yeah.
I've seen so many films that when I went and looked back at like what I had watched earlier this year, I was like, wait, I watched that this year? What? I can't believe that.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Quite the impressive achievement.
I wouldn't say impressive, but it is an achievement. Yes. All right. Well, why don't we take a look at some stats here for this
Yeah,
year?
let's do some stats.
Let's do some stats. Looking at my list here, of course, 500 films, which is 904 hours. That's a lot of hours.
A lot.
To be fair,
Yeah, we did the calculations.
Yeah.
Earlier, and it was like 37 days, I think.
yeah. To be fair, most of my films are around the 90-minute margin, so it was
Yeah,
pretty
that makes it
easy
easier.
to get through those films. But we have 309 directors, so roughly 200 films were from similar directors. Got 25 countries, 7 languages. Here's
Yeah, you have a really nice spread of years here. Usually mine are more oriented towards like whatever the current year is, which you definitely saw most from 2024. But then you had
yeah.
a good spread going all the way back to like 1931.
Yeah, most of my films were from the 2000s and 2010s, with a lot
Yeah.
from the 90s and such. Let's actually take a look at the decades here. 2000s, I have seen the most films, with 82 films, and then 2010s. But yeah, generally,
Yeah.
a lot of films here. Pretty nice. I like looking at these stats. They're fun.
Yeah, the stats are a lot of fun. I think.
I am surprised that I've seen the most films of this year, but I guess that makes sense. Because this is this year.
Yeah, yeah. The current year, you tend to watch more than you even realize you're watching, or at least I do.
Yeah. Alright, so the top of this year is not the top of my list of this year. The first two make sense. These three move around
Yeah,
a
it's
bit.
just I think it goes chronologically by whatever you most recently rated. I'm not entirely sure how it calculates this
No,
though.
it's not.
Or maybe it's what I don't know. I don't
Right.
know.
No, because like the rest of these films are 3 stars, and so
Yeah.
I think only 2 films of this year I rated more than 3 stars. So I
Okay.
think that's what they're registering here. Here's from 2023 of this year, 2014, nice, 1995, 2008. Weird, huh? Really? 2008.
2008 is a weirdly central year for a lot of things. Like for binging Barbie, we have covered so many 2008 films.
Yeah,
It's just one of those weird years where a lot of things collected and came out, and a lot of a lot of major directors put out movies. A lot of franchises put out movies.
I guess. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
because we have like James Bond, we have Ghibli, Cloverfield, Hellboy, Taken, High School Musical, all of these.
I see. Okay. All right. Here are my genres: action
A
and
lot of
drama.
action.
Yeah, a lot of action. I like my action. 73 animation. Okay. Most of it from the US. Almost 100
Yeah,
Japanese films. Ooh,
yeah, nice. That's good statistics there.
good statistics.
I
Nice.
I am somewhat confused why you have seen 98 films from Japan but only 89 in Japanese. I think that has to do with how things are categorized on Letterboxd, though.
Yeah, there are some weird things because
Yeah,
we
I think like if any production work was done in Japan, they register it as
yeah,
made in Japan.
because later on when we get to the world map, there's one film that you'll see. So here are
Yeah, yeah.
some themes and nano genres. So superheroes, of course. Superheroes, sci-fi, action. Those are
Yeah.
stuff.
Sci-fi monster and dinosaur adventures. You have 52 of those. That's
Nice.
it seems like it should be more with all of the Godzilla and Jurassic Park and all of those, but I don't know how these themes and nano genres are calculated.
Yeah. Nano genres, gadgets, stunts, agent. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Monster destruction Earth. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I am seeing these things show up a lot. You've watched a lot of disaster movies and a lot of sci-fi, yeah, disaster and monster and all of those things.
Yeah.
And then yeah, spy, secret agent, heist, that kind of stuff as well.
Here's a breakdown that of stuff. Yep, I've watched all the films of this list. I rated and reviewed them all. I liked 68 of them. Interesting. I've locked them all. I've rewatched 183 films. Well, that's interesting. Why have I not watch listed them? What is this stat here?
That the watch listed is how many of the films on the list are currently in your watch list.
Why would they
And it
currently be on my
automatically
watch list?
Well, the watch list automatically, it's in case you're looking at a different list of like
Ah,
Oscar
okay.
Best Picture winners, so you
I
can see
see.
how many are on your watch list. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I've seen all
And
these
since you watched
films.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the watched versus not watched, right? Is it helpful if you're looking at a list of things that you have watched the entirety of?
Owned and not owned. What? Is this a thing?
Oh, that's you can make a list of the films you own and then tag it, and then it'll show you stats for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And it'll show up when you're on the page for the movie as well that you own it. I may or may not sometimes use that when I'm out shopping and don't know if I currently own a movie or not.
Okay. So here I have the middle finger as my rating. 204 3 stars. I give a lot of 3 stars.
Yeah.
Just to be fair for a
I
lot of
tend to
films.
go more towards like 4 and 4.5, but 4 and 3.5, I should say. 4.5, I am. Yeah, you did 6 5-star movies. That seems like a lot for what your qualifications for a 5-star film are.
Yeah, 3 of them are Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The other 3
Alien,
are
Jurassic Park,
other stuff, yeah.
and then Whisper of the Heart. Yeah, those all make sense.
Yeah. 4 half films. Okay. That's interesting. Now let's look at the
Yeah.
top of my cast list here. Which, as expected, Tom Hanks is at the top with 33 films.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's not a surprise. Because, I knew I was watching a lot of Tom Hanks. But, yeah. Yeah, you were telling me that my second one is, one that I wasn't expecting. And, yeah. Desmond Llewellyn, who's from all the James Bond films. So
Yeah, you were trying to guess who it was, and you weren't getting close with it.
yeah, I was never
And
gonna.
I didn't want to spoil the surprise.
Yeah, I was never gonna guess Q. I should have though. I was. Yeah, Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger. That makes sense. Lois Maxwell. She's also James Bond. Toshiro Mifune. That's one that was intentional. Takashi Shimura. That's Kurosawa.
Yeah, looks like a bunch of Kurosawa collaborators here.
Yeah. Stallone. Let's see more. Tom Cruise at 11.
Oh yeah.
10 De Niro.
Bernard Lee. Oh, he's a lot of Bond here. Yeah.
Bruce Willis.
Lon Chaney Jr. would be a lot of monster movies.
Yeah. Jean DiMaggio. I guess Satsuma is the costume of Godzilla for some of these.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's neat.
9 Eastwoods, 9 Tucci's, 8 Roger Moores, 8 Bill Paxtons, Daniel Craig, Willem
Dafoe showing up.
Yeah.
And all from different kinds of. You have a Scorsese in here. You have American Psycho, one of the Jack Ryans, a Wes Anderson, two Oliver Stone, and then another Wes Anderson. So he's showing up not just because he was in one series, but he was in multiple that you were making your way through.
Yeah. That's fun. Let's see. Eddie Murphy, Peter Sellers, Andy Serkis, Samuel L. Jackson, Sean Connery, Hugo Weaving, because of
he's
because of Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
and
he's in Lord of the Rings and Transformers, and V for Vendetta showing up as the little straggler there.
Donald Sutherland, which
Hunger Games.
Yeah,
I think he's credited in all 5. Oh no, he isn't credited in the prequel.
So I had only ever known him from Hunger Games, but this year I've seen him in 3 other films. I was like, huh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Have I told you who my number 1 actor for this year is?
I think you told me a while ago. Who was it?
Okay. It has not changed. I'm pulling up the list right now. It is someone who you would never guess. M. Night Shyamalan.
Actor?
Yes.
Huh.
Because he shows up in 12 of his own films.
Okay.
Either as cameos or performances. So since I watched all of the Shyamalan films, he is my number 1 actor of the year.
Okay.
Just thought that was an interesting tidbit.
So Peter
the
Cullen,
other actors like Ian McKellen and Peter
Strong.
Cullen, yeah.
Sven Old Thorson? Who's this? I guess he's an actor who appears in a lot of Schwarzenegger films. Oh, he must be a buff. He must have been a bodybuilder then, for
Okay. Yeah.
muscular
Yeah.
physiques and such. Okay. Now let's move on to directors. So, 11 Steven Spielberg's, 10 Hayao Miyazaki's.
It's all but two, I think, of his. I think
9
you're just missing The Boy and the Heron and his first one, Castle of Cagliostro.
9 Blake Edwards, who did Pink Panther. Yeah, okay. 9 Wes Anderson's.
9 was, yeah.
8 Akira Kurosawa's. 8 Ichiro Honda's, who did Godzilla.
Yeah.
Noriaki Yuasa, I think, is Gamera. Yeah. 7 Scorsese. 6 Eastwood's. John G. Avildsen, who did that? What do you do?
He did Rockies and Karate Kids.
Yeah, he's alright. He's one of those guys. Okay. 5 Michael Bay.
All Transformers.
5 Tarantino's.
Francis Lawrence. That's Hungry. Oh, and Constantine. That's the other one.
All right. 4 Stallone's. 4 Hitchcock's. 4 Fincher's. 4 Cameron's. 4 Kubrick's. Okay. William Lau, 3 of them.
Yep. And I saw Jeff Fowler, director of the Sonic movies, was on this list with 3 as well.
Yes. And then here's a bunch of other people. If I look down...
Oh, James Whale, you did 3 Whale. I guess that's the Universal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, Invisible Man, and Bride of Frankenstein.
Harryhausen is in here somewhere. Special effects.
Yeah, down in the...
Visual effects. Yep, 10 Harryhausens that
Wow.
I've seen. Yeah. Composer, 15 John Williams, 16 Hans Selters.
Oh, what did he do? Oh, the Universal monster
yeah.
movie. That makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay. Makeup Studios. 41 Toho, 67 Universal, 58 Paramount, 38 United Artists, 32 Columbia.
Nice.
Here are my highs and lows.
Yeah. Highest average up there with 7 Samurai.
Yep. Most
Not
obscure,
a surprise, neither is the lowest.
most obscure is Batgirl Year 1. That's a motion comic.
Yeah.
Of course, this Batman 1's the longest. Oldest was Dracula. And newest is Sonic 3. Looking
Not
at
a bad list.
Yeah, looking at the world map, we have 1 film in Russia. Which
Oh, yep. Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, that did shoot in Russia.
Yep, the 1 film
That was
there.
a big deal when they did it.
382 USA. 1 Australia. What film is this one? Fall Guy. Yeah, that makes sense. 4 India. 5 China. 98 Japan. Yep. Oh, the host is Japan. Okay.
Oh, interesting. I wonder, that must have been visual effects or something that they had done there.
3 Koreas. 0 North.
That's not surprising.
It's not surprising. Spain. UK 72. Canada 10. Wonder which ones these are. Monster High. Barbie.
It's always fun to look at the world map and see just what pops up where. It's always kind of like you have, oh yeah, Sweden, you have the girl with the dragon tattoo and a man called Otto. That makes sense.
6 Mexicos.
From United Arab Emirates, you have The Circle, the Tom Hanks, Emma Emma Watson. Okay, yeah, Emma Watson.
Mike,
That's her name.
stop it. Stop it. Okay. Alright, there's that.
Harmony. Oh yeah.
Any more stats here? Okay.
I think that's the end.
So here's some stuff here. We got milestones of this year. I averaged 41 films a month. I think November had the most films. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
November I watched like almost 100 films. Just that 1 month.
Looks like you watched most films on a Monday. 84 films on
That's
Mondays.
interesting. Yeah. Wednesdays, Thursdays are second. That's interesting.
Not many on Saturday.
Saturday got 67.
No, that's Sunday. Saturday's the day
Oh,
before
sorry.
Sunday.
59. What did I do Saturday? I think I live stream a lot on Saturday, so
Oh, that makes
that
sense.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. Yep, that's when I did that. That's also when I record some stuff. Milestones here. My first film is Godzilla. Last one is Cube.
This is a really good snapshot of your year, I guess, just by popping it every once in a while. But you have representation of the Mission Impossible, you have the samurai movies, Tom Hanks, Wes Anderson, Godzilla, Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Bond, classic sci-fi, all of those showing up here.
Yeah.
Usually mine are a little bit more scattered into random corners of things that I
Yeah.
watched, just happened to watch.
Yeah, you could also like it's fun to see just you can see every 50th film, so yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fun little image of like what I've seen this year. Let's see. A lot of this is the same, although yep, it's my most liked review of this year. Barbie and Stacy to the rescue. Yep. And here's a collage of everything I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the list.
Quite the list. No, these are actually Sony headphones. Very cheap, 20 bucks.
Okay.
And then a random assortment of films that's like, hey, you've not seen these yet. Let's see. Let's also just take a look at what's left on my watch list. Just to round things
Okay.
off. I have 200 films. So, let's see. We have Laika, Kurosawa, this stuff, Nosferatu, the original one,
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
the bad Home Alone sequels, a bunch of random anime films, a lot of like obscure superhero stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know there was a 78 Doctor Strange movie. Or maybe I did at some point.
Yeah, that could be a TV pilot, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And here are a bunch of like Steven Spielberg and John Williams films that I want to see at some point.
Yeah.
Random assortment of films like some Schwarzeneggers, some more Harryhausen, classic films, recent films.
Yeah, seeing a lot of interesting ones here. Some that I've seen, some that I haven't.
So Jay, since you're on our binging Barbie podcast, would you like to help answer this
Yeah.
comment here?
Oh, sure. Yes, I can help answer.
Yes.
I don't think it's creepy for grown men to review content. I mean, part of it is it's not just made for little girls, and it's often not being made by only women. A lot of the Barbie movies are directed and written by men. Yeah, I don't know. I think if it is out there, it is available to be looked at and reviewed. I do think it is important, though, to approach it with an understanding of what it is, which we try and do on Bingy Barbie, to
Yeah.
acknowledge that this is stuff being made for a specific audience and we aren't part of that target audience, so we can't necessarily speak to how it works for the target demographics,
I think it's also
just how it works for us.
important to like watch whatever the kids are watching so that we can connect to them on some level. So if any of us ever become parents, I doubt you will, Jay, because I don't know if you want to be a parent. But
Yeah, that does not appeal to me. But
like if the events were suddenly becoming parents for some reason, it's like okay, you want to connect with them. If you can watch what they're watching without cringing so much, this is like an exercise to do that. So we're just making sure that these are suitable for them and we can enjoy it with them, allowing us to expand our minds. People think it's creepy. There are creepier things out there than just us.
yeah, I mean, and I will say, like, these are pieces of art that have been created with intention. Um, at least for now, I know AI is doing more and more stuff, and that worries me for the future of stuff like the Barbie movies. But you do see these creative works that aren't treated with the rigor that we treat like a Christopher Nolan movie or Greta Gerwig film. Um, and so it's nice to just kind of look at these pieces of art and wonder, what were the artists thinking? What were their intentions? What were the themes that interested them? Um, and what were the limitations put on them because they aren't a Christopher Nolan or a Greta Gerwig talent and they're making things within the Mattel system. Yeah, that I think that's a response that works. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and it's also sometimes you could be surprised at just how good some of the content is. Because we, on our
Yeah,
Binging Barbie podcast, watched like 40 different animated Barbie films, and we were pleasantly surprised with a bunch of them that we enjoy, and yeah, to like a high level. Like Princess and the
yeah,
Pauper.
yes.
Yeah. I also, on another level, find it's like there's so many adult oriented content that sometimes it can be really tiresome to be like in a world that's so mature and darker and grim. That's like you want something a little bit more lighthearted and innocent. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we that's all we have for like this year of the films that I've watched. 500 films, which is fun. It's fun looking at all these stats and getting a perspective on these films. What have you noticed from like the stuff that we've watched this year, Jay?
Yeah, looking through your stuff again, I mentioned a lot of disaster movies, a lot of monster movies. Yeah, an interesting collection, and I think you did do a good job also branching out. I was surprised when you started watching so many Kurosawa films, and I'm glad that you were able to overcome some of the difficulties with watching subtitled films and actually enjoy those. Um, and hopefully that leads to some watching some more of those international films and finding joy in those.
Yeah. So yeah, I have found that it's much easier to watch um those films now because earlier in the year It's like I had to like mentally prepare myself, but like now I can just like hop on one and be fine. Because like right now I'm watching through
Yeah.
this Squid Game TV show, and so that's
Oh,
all
okay.
subtitled. I wouldn't have been able to do that earlier this year, but now it's like pretty simple. So this has been a
Yeah.
really good year of just like learning to tolerate and be able to read more efficiently than just what it was. I still
Yeah.
prefer to watch my animated stuff dub, but
I'm that same way. I don't remember when I learned how to watch subtitled stuff, but it must have been when I was watching more and anime on like the Funimation channel, but it would be just the first 3 episodes, the dub, and then you would have to watch the subs after that.
sure.
So I think that's when I learned how to read subtitles. Um, but yeah, if I'm watching anime, I'm often watching the dub just because I find it easier to appreciate the animation portion of it if I'm not reading the subtitles. So it really, some dubs are just so bad that I have to switch over to the original language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also like interesting to watch a lot of these films and like see how some films influence other films, like how the Kurosawa films or samurai films in general influence like the Western genre, or like direct comparisons like the airport films to the airplane films. So,
Yeah.
um, and then also like watching like Japanese films, you start to get like a cultural understanding of some stuff.
Yeah. I, I I agree with that. It's a great way to learn about cultures and experience different ideas and histories and
Sure.
yeah.
No, Squid Game is not a seafood cooking show. It is. It is like a Hunger Games show. That's the best way I can compare it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen Squid Game?
I've seen the first part of the first season. I don't know that I ever finished the first season. I didn't dislike it. I'm just bad at watching TV.
Yeah, they made a game show last year of Squid Game on Netflix.
Which, yeah, feels like it's kind of missing the point.
But no,
But
I like it though. You know, I think it's a
okay.
fun game show concept. It's
Yeah.
probably a little too dramatic in how it's done. But like I do like that it doesn't have your typical like over the top host that's like, "Oh, this week we're going to be doing this." They're trying to play it off as if it were an actual Squid Game show, and so I've been enjoying the drama of it. I think they've been doing
Okay.
the games pretty well and how they try to eliminate players.
Okay. Yeah. I watch very little reality TV competition shows, so I have never been tempted to click on it, but maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna be about it for this stream. So, thank you for joining me, Jay, for
Yeah, thanks for having me.
going through all this. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, last stream of the year, and yeah, thanks for joining at the end and talking for a little bit. So, yeah, hope you have a good rest of the year, and bye, bye, bye.
Bye.